Hello, please join me in starting with a prayer. Dear God, if left to my own devices, my perception will be skewed. I surrender to you everything that I think and feel. God, please take my past, plan my future, send your spirit to redeem my mind that I might be set free. May I be your channel, God, and serve the world. May I become who you would have me be, do what you would have me do, go where you would have me go, and say what you would have me say, and to whom, dear God. God, please enable me to set aside everything that I think I know about everything. God, allow me to have an open mind for a new experience with everything. I love you, God. Thank you for your many, many blessings. Amen.
Hello, thank you for joining with me. We are in A Course in Miracles, complete and annotated edition, 2017, edited by Mr. Robert Perry. And we are reading on day 26, text Miracle Principle 47 and 48. And this is with the Course Companions Facebook group led by Emily Bennington, who is just wonderful. And Miracle Principle 47 is on page 43 in Chapter 1, Principles of Miracles. The miracle is a learning device which lessens the need for time. In the longitudinal or horizontal plane, the true equality of all the members of the sonship appears to involve almost endless time. But we know that time is only an artifact introduced as a learning aid. And I'm going to go down and read 141, which is a quote from the text, Miracle Principle 15. Time was made so that you could use it creatively, and convince yourself of your own ability to create. Time is a teaching device and a means to an end. The sudden shift from horizontal to vertical perception which the miracle entails introduces an interval from which the doer and the receiver both emerge much farther along in time than they would otherwise have been. A miracle has thus the unique property of abolishing time by rendering the space of time it occupies unnecessary. There is no relation between the time a miracle takes and the time it covers. It substitutes for learning that might have taken thousands of years. It does this by the underlying recognition of perfect equality and holiness between doer and receiver on which the miracle rests. The miracle is a learning device which lessens the need for time. The miracle, I thought we were moving on to 48, sorry. The miracle is unstable but perfectly consistent. That is, it does not occur predictably across time and it rarely recurs in comparable forms. But within itself, it is perfectly consistent, since it contains nothing but an acknowledgement of equality and worth. All parts are equal. 142. All parts refers to all examples of the phenomenon of miracles, all miracles. It helps to read the it in this sentence and the preceding to as the phenomenon of miracles. Thus, the phenomenon itself is unstable, occurring unpredictably and in ever new forms, but perfectly consistent in that all parts of it, all miracles, contain the same thing, nothing but an acknowledgement of equality and worth. We said before that the miracle abolishes time. And that's Miracle Principle 13. A miracle is a beginning and an ending. It thus abolishes time. It does this, however, within the larger temporal sequence. It establishes an out-of-pattern time interval, which is not under the usual laws of time. Only in this sense is it timeless. By collapsing time, it literally saves time, much the way daylight savings time does. It rearranges the distribution of light. I like having background music. The purpose of daylight savings time is to save summer daylight from being wasted. It does this by shifting daylight from the early morning hours when we are asleep to the afternoon and evening, when the daylight can be used for outdoor activities. As a result, it gets more accomplished in the same 24-hour period. The daylight is used rather than slept away, wasted. This mirrors the point being made here that miracles bring in the light, which results in more getting accomplished. More progress being made in the same amount of time. Time is thus used to the fullest rather than wasted. Okay. Miracle Principle 48. The miracle is the only device which you have at your immediate disposal for controlling time. Only revelation transcends it, having nothing to do with time at all. The miracle is much like the body in that both are learning aids which aim at facilitating a state in which they are unnecessary. When you are finally in the original state of direct communication, neither the body nor the miracle serves any purpose. While you are in the body, however, you can choose between loveless or miraculous. While you are in the body, however, you can choose between loveless or miraculous channels of creativity. You can make an empty shell, see previous reference, 145. This is Miracle Principle 33. If a mind expresses without love, it can make an empty shell. So you can make an empty shell, but you do not make nothing at all. You do not make nothing at all. You can wait, delay, paralyze yourself, reduce your creativity almost to nothing, and even induce a real developmental arrest or regression, but you cannot abolish your creativity. You can destroy your medium of communication, but not your potential. You were not created by your own free will. Only what you make is yours to decide. The basic decision of the miracle-minded is not to wait on time any longer than is necessary. Time can waste as well as be wasted. The miracle worker therefore accepts the time control factor of the miracle gladly, because he knows that every collapse of time brings everyone closer to the ultimate release from time, in which the Son and the Father are one or of one kind. The real meaning of one kind is of one mind or will. 146, Miracle Principle 46. This appears to contradict another statement. I and my Father are one. Actually, the original statement was, are of one kind. When the will of the Sonship and the Father are one, their perfect accord is heaven. Equality does not imply homogeneity now. 147. In other words, just because we are ultimately equal does not mean we have the same talents and will make the same contributions to the atonement now. In heaven, however, we will have the exact same strengths because God gives literally everything to each of His sons. When everyone has everything, individual contributions to the sonship will no longer be necessary. When the atonement has been completed, all talents will be shared by all the sons of God. God is not partial. All of His children have His total love, and all of his gifts are given freely to everyone alike. Except you become as little children, 148. Matthew 8:13. Assuredly I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. So except you become as little children means unless you fully recognize your complete dependence on God, you cannot know the real power of the Son in his true relationship with the Father. You do have special talents which are needed for the celestial speed up at this time, 149. Matthew 18:3, according to guidance Helen received at the beginning of the course's dictation, see Cameo 1, there is a celestial speed up underway. In response to people losing more than they were gaining, people all over the world were being called on to help and were making their individual contributions as part of an overall prearranged plan. Shuckman, Helen Cohen, Autobiography, Temecula, California, for A Course in Miracles, 1990-2009, page 41. Their contributions, in other words, are what is speeding up collective progress. The work of Edgar Cayce and A Course in Miracles itself were identified as aspects of this speed up. Okay. But note that the term speed up is not one which relates to the transcending of time. When time is abolished and all the sons of God have come home, no special agents will be necessary. But do not underestimate the power of special agents now, or the great need there is for them. I do not claim to be more than that myself. Okay, I'm going to start that over. So, when time is abolished and all the sons of God have come home, no special agents will be necessary. But do not underestimate the power of special agents now, or the great need there is for them. I do not claim to be more than that myself. No one in his right mind, a term which should be specially noted, ever wants either more or less than that. Ha ha. No one in his right mind. Those who are called on to witness for me now are witnessing for all men as I am. 150. This appears to be a reference to Acts 22:15, where Paul is told, "You will be a witness for him, Jesus, to all men of what you have seen and heard." In the Course's allusion, witnessing for Jesus means witnessing for all men, because that is what Jesus does. Fantasies are distorted forms of thinking because they always involve twisting perception into unreality. Fantasy is a debased form of vision. Visions and revelations are closely related. Fantasies and projection are more closely associated because both attempt to control external reality according to false internal needs. Live and let live happens to be a very meaningful injunction. Live and let live happens to be a very meaningful injunction. Placing live and let live in this discussion on fantasy implies that fantasies are a violation of this proverb. Fantasies, in other words, treat others as one's puppets rather than just letting them live as they choose. Twist reality in any way and you are perceiving destructively. Reality was lost through usurpation, which in turn produced tyranny. Now you must choose freely to devote your heritage to the greater restoration. As long as a single slave remains to walk the earth, your release is not complete. Complete restoration of the sonship is the only true goal of the miracle-minded. Sexual fantasies are distortions of perception by definition. They are a means of making false associations and obtaining pleasure from them. You can do this only because you are creative, but although you can perceive false associations, you can never make them real except to yourself. As we said before, you believe in what you make or create, 152, and that's text Miracle Principle 12, and we believe in what we make or create. If you make a miracle, you will be equally strong in your belief in that. The strength of your conviction will then sustain the belief of the miracle receiver. No fantasies, sexual or otherwise, are true. Fantasies become totally unnecessary as the wholly satisfying nature of reality becomes apparent. The sex impulse is a miracle impulse when it is in proper focus. One individual sees in another the right partner for propagating the species and also for their joint establishment of a creative home. This does not involve fantasy at all. If I am asked to participate in the decision will be a right one too. The following 3 paragraphs come from a response to a question from Bill about sex under existing conditions. The choice of sex partners often involves a lack of love, and this, whatever happens, must be atoned for. 154. In the Course, we atone for a lack of love by giving love where before we had given lovelessness. How to do that in this case is explained in the 2 paragraphs that follow this one. They are frequently selected precisely because they are not suited to gratify your fantasies. This is not because you want to abandon or give up the fantasies, but because you are afraid of them. You see in a partner a means of protecting against the fear, but then you continue to look around for chances to indulge the fantasies. The dream of the perfect partner is an attempt to find external integration while retaining conflicting needs in the self. Some abandon the hope in a neurotic sense of despair of finding that perfect partner. Others insist the hope is justified. None is in his right mind. The lack of love or faulty need orientation, which leads to a particular person, not object, choice, can often be corrected within the existing framework, 155. Within the existing framework means within the current relationship. The situation is questionable largely because of its inherent vulnerability to fantasy gratification. Doing the best you can within this limitation is often the best correction measure. Any relationship you have undertaken for whatever reasons becomes a responsibility. If you shift your own needs, some amount of corresponding shift in the need orientation of the other person must result. This will be beneficial even if the partner was originally attracted to you because of your disrespect. 156. The disrespect appears to be in seeing the person simply as an object whose purpose was to protect you against your sexual fantasies by not fulfilling them. Or was that, by not fulfilling them. Okay. I lost my place. Teaching devices which are totally alien to a learner's perceptual system are usually merely disruptive. Transfer depends on some common elements in the new situation which are understandable in terms of the old. 157. In other words, it is all right to stay within the framework of a relationship originally based on disrespect and work on slowly changing it. After all, that framework is what the two partners understand, and some people learn best within the framework of what they understand. How can sexual impulses be directly translated into miracle impulses? In a situation where you or another person or both experience inappropriate sexual impulses, in a situation where you or another person or both experience inappropriate sexual impulses, 1. Know first that this is an expression of fear. Your love toward each other is not perfect, and this is why the fear arose. 2. Turn immediately to me by denying the power of the fear, and ask me to help you replace it with love. This shifts the sexual impulse immediately to the miracle impulse and places it at my disposal. 3. Acknowledge the true creative worth of both yourself and the other one. This places strength where it belongs. 158. These 3 steps are meant as an actual practice that we do when we experience inappropriate sexual impulses. To emphasize this and make it more usable, we have numbered the steps. This exercise is presented in different form in Chapter 2, where its steps are numbered in the Your text, and in Chapter 3 is called the Correction Formula for Fear. So know first that this is an expression of fear. Turn immediately to me by denying the power of the fear and ask me to help you replace it with love. And acknowledge the true creative worth of both yourself and the other one. This places strength where it belongs. Note that sexual fantasies are always destructive or depleting in that they perceive another in an inappropriate creative role. Both people are perceived essentially as objects, fulfilling their own pleasure drives. This dehumanized view is the source of the depleting use of sex. Freud's description is purely negative. That is, sex as a release from the unpleasant. He also observed that the tension from id impulses never completely abates. Excuse me. According to Freud, the pleasure in sex is merely the release of unpleasant tension. This tension comes from the buildup of unexpressed sexual energy, libido. This energy is located in the id, the unconscious repository of primitive instinctual impulses. Id impulses, in Freud's thought, are instinctual impulses that demand immediate gratification. These especially include impulses of sexuality and aggression. What he should have said was that the shift from miracle impulses to sexual impulses was debilitating in the first place because of the level confusion involved. 160. Level confusion here means confusing the body with the actual person, who is spirit. If the person is not the body, then how can bodily release produce an actual release for the person? This set up a state in which real release was impossible. Note that Freud's notion of sex was as a device for inducing relaxation, which he confused with peace. Inappropriate sex relaxes only in the sense that it may induce physical sleep. The miracle, on the other hand, is an energizer. It always strengthens and never depletes. It does induce peace, and by establishing tranquility, not relaxation, it enables both giver and receiver to enter into a state of grace. Here, their miracle-mindedness, not released from tension, is restored. And I think all of us can even relate to the relaxation that comes from sex. Is yes, it can be peaceful, but it certainly cannot be equated with peace. Okay, so tension is the result of building up of unexpressed miracle impulses. This can be truly abated by releasing the miracle drive which has been blocked. Converting it to sexual libido merely produces further blocking. Never foster this illusion in yourself or encourage it in others. An object is incapable of release because it is a concept which is devoid of creative power. The recognition of the real creative power in yourself and others brings release because it brings peace. The peace of God, which passeth understanding, can keep your hearts now and forever. 161. Philippians 4:7. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. In the above passage, peace comes from recognizing the creative power in others and ourselves, rather than relating to both as objects. Remember that you who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. 162. This follows directly on a comment that it is all right to know about particular past lives, as long as you remember always that you never suffered anything because of anything anyone else did. Thinking you suffered at the hands of another is contrary to complete forgiveness, and complete forgiveness is the way to peace. You never really wanted peace before, so there was no point in knowing how to get it. This is an example of the need-to-know principle, which was established by the Plan of Atonement long before the CIA. This U.S. Central Intelligence Agency is well known for sharing information only on a need-to-know basis. Bill Thetford actually worked for the CIA in the 1950s, where he carried out research, writing, and teaching on the Personality Assessment System, a system for describing and assessing personality. See Cameo 30. He had top secret clearance, so he was very familiar with the CIA's need-to-know policy. No kind of knowledge is acquired by anyone unless he wants it or believes in some way he needs it. So no kind of knowledge is acquired by anyone unless he wants it or believes in some way he needs it. The following section will be the only one which deals with the concept of lack, because while the concept does not exist in what God creates, it is very apparent in what you make. It is, in fact, the essential difference. A need implies